Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. Thanks again for being with us in this webinar, India and the Spanish-speaking diplomacy, conversation with diplomats in the time of the coronavirus. We have many friends here today, and I see also our honorary consul in Chennai, Antonio Lobo, and many other people. Thanks for being here with us. This is our last session. It's been, 1 month and a half of different sessions with countries like Argentina, Chile, Mexico, Spain, Uruguay. And we are very lucky today, because in this concluding session, we have such an important country as Peru. I want to thank, all the ambassadors, and today especially the ambassador of Peru, for taking time off with their tight schedules. Because as many of you know, during these times of the coronavirus, these are times when embassies are especially busy with the task of repatriation of nationals and taking care of their own national residents in India. So these are for embassies very difficult and busy times. And all the more, they've been able to take their time to stay here with us and to share this conversation, to know better about the diplomacy in Spanish-speaking countries. To be true, I must declare myself a great admirer of diplomats because they are so well traveled that they know a lot of things about many countries. And traveling, as we know, broadens your mind and makes you less provincial and more understanding to the other. I think that diplomats make true that all India saying, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which says that the world is a great family. And diplomats have also another standing quality, which is they know how to listen. And I often think during these trying times of the COVID, that we need the wisdom of the diplomat who knows how to take care of in emergency situations, in times of war and peace, in times of calamity and prosperity. We are closing now, and as you know, the aim of these sessions, of these webinars, has been to know the background of diplomatic relations between India and the Hispanic world, to know the present state, to know the future expectations and the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Very important also, and we have underlined it through all these sessions, to understand, and you know it very well, all our listeners know very well, the importance of the Spanish language today in today's world, and the importance of the growing Hispanic community, both in economic terms and in demographic terms. These are uncertain times, but also hopeful ones, because I think, and the diplomats can help us very much, that we must have hope in the ability of the human species to extract a lesson from difficult times. It is a real pleasure for me to have today such a senior diplomat as Carlos Polo, who is the ambassador to Peru, the ambassador of Peru in New Delhi. He is a very senior diplomat, a career diplomat, who's been almost 40 years, in diplomatic service, because he started in 1983. He has 3 titles. He is a career diplomat from the Diplomatic Academy of Peru, but he's also graduated in international relations from the Diplomatic Academy of Peru, and he also graduated in psychology from Inca Garcilaso de la Vega University. So I think that's a very good combination of diplomacy, international relations, and psychology, which I think are very interesting sciences that go well together. As I said, he entered diplomatic service in 1983, and he has held, please, close your mics as usual, I always say, close your mics and also close your video cameras. Otherwise, that's a very heavy load on the system and will compromise, the running of the webinar. As I was saying, our ambassador, he has more than 15 positions in all these years. And just to cut it short, I will say that he was first secretary of the Directorate of Europe, Middle East, and Africa. He has held also a position of minister appointed at the Ministry of Home Affairs to give advice on international relations and diplomacy. And with the rank of ambassador, he has been also Director General of the Peruvian Communities Abroad and Consular Affairs. He has held several positions abroad, as he's been in the permanent representation of Peru to the United Nations Organization in New York. He's been also in countries like Argentina, Bolivia, Portugal, Venezuela, as Consul General of Peru in Houston, in United States of America. And just before coming here and with the rank of ambassador, he was ambassador of Peru in the Kingdom of Morocco. He's been in India since the last year, and he has also several decorations, among which the Order of the Liberator General San Martin from Argentina, the Order of the Civil Merit of Liberator of Simón Bolívar in different grades, and also he is in the grade of the Great Cross, which is a great distinction, the Order of the Diplomatic Service Merit of Peru, José Gregorio Paz Soldan. His Excellency, Mr. Carlos Polo, it's a great pleasure to have you with us. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, dear Oscar. I'm so glad to be here today, this evening, not just with you, with all your audience, all the followers that you have. Let me first of all to say that for this standing initiative that I am sure that will allow people and around India to discover the different culture of the Spanish-speaking countries. Before moving to our talk, I just wanted to take a brief moment to congratulate the Cervantes Institute of the signature of the agreement of the establishment of the Connaught network, which now links at the even deeper level your institution with our countries, brother countries, Colombia, Mexico, and Peru, through in our case, through the Inca Garcilaso de la Vega Institute. It was recently signed, increase our mutual cooperation. I personally think that this agreement is certainly a step in right direction to promote not only the language that links us all, Spanish, but also the cultural manifestation that make each of our countries unique, starting from the name of the network Connaught, which many agree that the first words imported into the mainstream Spanish from the Americas. I may add also that this network are all the more relevant nowadays when we are thinking about how to continue the promoting cultural exchange in times of COVID-19 and the social isolation that we are living now. That is my first word that I would like to express to you, Oscar. And also, if you allow me, briefly, I would like to refer about the Institute Inca Garcilaso de la Vega, because I think this is important, an opportunity to express all the people to transmit the knowledge. Briefly, Garcilaso de la Vega, he is our first Peruvian. We call him, he gives us to our identity as Peruvian. Why? Because when the Spanish conquerors arrived in the middle of the 16th century to Peru, they found Incas in Peru. We have the emperors of the Incas, the last civilization that we have. We start with the older 5,000 years ago, but the last one, the 200 years, we developed what the Inca civilization, with the highest, the end of the civilization. But when they arrived, and one of these conquistadors, when Mr. Garcilaso de la Vega, a noble conquistador who arrived to Cusco, the city, the center of the empire, and then he found a lady who was a princess, a lady, Mrs. Isabel Chimpuk Oyo. Who was her? She was the granddaughter of one of the 10, because we had 14 Incas in all the dynasty. but he was the granddaughter of the 10 Incas Tupac Yupanqui. And so Garcilaso de la Vega, he's coming from the two mixture. He was the first mixture. Obviously, there were a lot of mixture, no? But he was the first because he became a great writer. He became the person who was the imagine of the New Peruvian. When this story will be shorted, I would like to be very short because he was 20 in Cusco. He decided to move definitely to Spain because he was a noble also. He was a Spaniard and also Incas descent, you know. But he decided to move when he was 20 to Spain, and he spent all his life, in the rest of his life in Spain, writing, and he will know about his works, literary works, about the chronics. He writes about the conquerors, how was the life in this moment. We call them comentarios reales. It's a universal literature that everybody knows. But this is for our side. But the other side, the Miguel Cervantes Saavedra, our father, or our later also, he is one of the one. I don't know his biggest personal, but the issue is both lived in the same time in Spain, in the same moment, without knowing each other. One lived in Cordoba, the other one lived really in Madrid, maybe, or I don't know really where Cervantes lived. But the coincidence is, and this is an anecdote, right, that we celebrate the date of our language every 23rd of April. We celebrate in paying tribute to Cervantes, to our language. Well, both passed away, both died in 23 April 1616. The same day, the same month, the same year. This is a great coincidence, and maybe it's a signal that is why we are sharing now in this cooperation, and we are with more motives promoting our language and our culture and all that we linkage. Of course, that we have a mixture. We have all the culture that Spain brought to Peru, to the colony, was a great. We are very proud of that, no? But our identity is coming from the Inca Garcilaso de la Vega, who, when he was 24, he decided to change the name because his name at the beginning was other, and he decided to say, now I'm going to be Inca Garcilaso de la Vega. This is a short story, and well, I hope that it could be this issue. It could be for a conference, maybe for talk more. But yes, I would like to. I had to let you know about this briefly.
I really appreciate His Excellency that you started just by mentioning Inca Garcilaso de la Vega, because I don't know if our Indian students know about him so much, and he's a very important figure, as you said. And well, that's wonderful.
This is Garcilaso. This is Garcilaso, Inca Garcilaso de la Vega. The picture, the painting that this moment. And this is a little pocket book of the Cervantes book, no?
That's really incredible.
Don Quixote, the second book.
Wow, in a really pocket edition, more than pocket edition.
Very useful, very useful.
Thanks very much. And I also like very much that you mentioned it, but because you rightly said, because there is a branch of the Institute, Inca Garcilaso de la Vega, sharing the same space as Instituto Cervantes in Madrid, so that we are hosting your institution there, and we feel very proud of having an Instituto Inca Garcilaso de la Vega in Madrid. I hope you know that once this virus allows us to do some activities regarding this great figure that should be known very much more here in India. So thanks very much for this start, which is really magnificent, to know about this great writer.
Thank you.
And that with Cervantes, shares this distinction. And we celebrate now in the International Book Day, which is the 23rd of April. So let's work on that much more. And now let's go back to our questions, beginning with how old are the diplomatic relations between India and Peru? And it is true that a Peruvian Amazonas frigate arrived at the coast of Calcutta in 1857.
Yes, dear Oscar.
Very early, by the way, 1857.
Yes, you're asking a very interesting question. You know, the fact is that the diplomatic relation between Peru and India formally started on March 26, 1963. This means that this year, our country celebrates 57 years of history as a close friends, partners, and allies on many different areas of diplomacy. However, I wouldn't to do justice to a story if my answer remained just that, because it would mean that I will be overlooking a less study, but by no means less important that of the inception of our ties, which predate what we may call formal beginning of our relations. And as you have correctly pointed out, many historians and other academics trace the beginning of that I will call our initial exchanges of interaction to the voyage of the Amazon frigate. This was a Peruvian Navy ship which had embarked on an epic quest of circumventing the globe and visiting all major cities and ports. During this trip, the ship stopped in Kolkata for some repairs between February and April in 1857. But exchanges not stopped there. Long before we opened the embassy in Delhi, Peru had established a vice consulate office in Kolkata in 1897, which, as we all know, held a major economic, historical, political, and cultural importance during all modern history in this time, no? I'm talking about Kolkata. Without a doubt, the decision to have a consular office in India was linked to the global importance of this city, had at the turn of the century. A matter of fact, we even had a high-level visit of Maharaja Kapurthala in 1925, which made it into the headline in Peru. The Maharaja arrived on board a Peruvian steamship, the Oroya, and was received by none other than the president of Peru himself, Mr. Augusto B. Leguía, in Lima. In a different era, even before establishing diplomatic relations, our country already had contact in the multilateral arena. Both Peru and India were members of the League of Nations and founding members of the United Nations. There are just some areas of our bilateral exchange before the formal diplomatic relation that I can share with you. I am sure that many more undocumented exchanges had occurred at the people and commercial level between our countries before the establishment of the diplomatic relation. Having covered this part of the question, I think we can come to the formal beginnings of our relation in 1963. Or to be more precise, 5 years before, in 1958, when negotiations to establish diplomatic relations started in Chile through our embassy accredited in Santiago. After a long negotiation, we signed a joint statement at the delegation where we agreed to begin our diplomatic ties. Peru sent its first head of mission to India that very first years, Minister Eduardo Sarmiento, who presented his letter of credence to President Radhakrishnan. 1 year later, he was accredited as ambassador of Peru to India. As a point of interest, the office of the embassy, just to mention, our office were initially the famous Oshok Hotel in Chanakyapuri, where we held the last assembly of the International Alliance last year, in 2019. We then moved to Defense Colony in 1966, and then to Basan Bihar, where recently India sent its first resident head of mission to Peru some years later in 1969, Mr. Nazaret. Since then, we have had 13 Indian ambassadors accredited in Lima and 16 Peruvian ambassadors accredited in India.
Well, that's quite impressive, yeah. And that's in spite of the long distance between both countries, but the relations are really. So let's just go a little bit deeper, into the present state of the diplomatic relations between both countries, because it seems that India and Peru have a long history of high-level visits. If I am not wrong, in 2018, Peru received the official visit of the Vice President of India, Shri Venkaiah Naidu. So what you will say about the present state of the diplomatic relations between both countries?
Oh, yes, the visit of the Vice President of India is one of the most recent of many high-level visits that we have had between our countries. The other one being the visit of the Minister of State for External Affairs, Mr. Muralekaran, last year. I would like to make a quick note here to underline just how important are these visits as part of the diplomatic engagement between two countries. Not only are they a demonstration of good wills, but they also help move forward the bilateral agenda. In this sense, talking first about the visit of the Vice President, the arrival of such of seniors Indian figures was definitely welcomed by Peru. That time, we ended up signing the agreement on new and renewable energy, which is now getting implemented online. This agreement was also a step to strengthen our country's engagement and in an area of market mutual interests, such as renewables. I may add here that Peru is the Vice President of the Latin America and Caribbean region at the International Solar Alliance, and was host of the first event, Sun World, who was held in Lima last November, last year, 2019. This was the biggest event in the Solar Alliance celebrate. This issue is very important for India. That's Peru is in the first line collaborating in this matter. It was the first event outside India to promote investment in solar with Latin America and why not Peruvian twist. Apart from moving forward to the sustainable agenda, the visit of the Vice President Naidu also served to continue discussing issues of mutual interest. The first one of these is the organization of a broad spectrum dialogue that covers all areas of our relation, be it political, economic, or technical. We call this joint commission. The sole fact that this dialogue exists speaks for excellent level of the relation between our countries. We held the first meeting of the joint commission in 2017 and hope to hold the second one in the near future. With the breakout of the COVID-19 pandemic, we may need to be creative and flexible and explore more options to hold, and despite the difficult to travel internationally. We will see how this pan out. We are committed to moving forward the agenda. All in all, the Vice President had a very active agenda. He met President Martin Vizcarra, the Prime Minister, the President of Congress, the Foreign Minister, and the Minister of Trade. Of course, he also took the chance to celebrate the 55th years of the establishment of our diplomatic relation with a cultural event which featured both Indian and Peruvian dance. Moving to the visit of the Minister Muralekaran, he visited Peru briefly last year in August. One of our main topics of conversation at the time was, again, the preparation of the next meeting of the Joint Commission. However, there are other issues that reappear in our bilateral dialogue, which include the decided support of Peru to India's candidature for permanent membership in an expanded United Nations Security Council, and the strong and absolute condemnation of all form and manifestation of terrorism. At the time, we were also close to holding Sun World, the large international solar alliance event, I mentioned it early, so that was also on the agenda. Another recent and important topic in the agenda is the negotiation of the trade agreement between Peru and India. I believe you have something interesting to know about this. No?
We will come to that, but let me just remark, because you say a very important things, especially for our Indian audience here, because Peru does support India's aspiration for permanent membership in a reform and expanded United Securities Council, which is, all we know, a very important issue to Indian diplomacy. But even, and we know also that India has expressed its desire to engage more closely with the Pacific Alliance, of which Peru is a member. But you mentioned also, and I'm sure that I don't know if many of our Indian friends know here, the so-called International Solar Alliance, which I think both Peru and India were founding members. Can you dwell a little bit on this International Solar Alliance?
Sure. Both is an initiative of India and France. Together in 2016 in Marrakesh, in the COP, in the framework of the COP 21 COP in Marrakesh, they decided to promote and to launch this initiative. This is try to help to develop, especially to developed countries, to give cooperation, international cooperation. For example, to use grids for energy in the poor or needed people, and to help the agriculture's instrument. The machine, they need energy, but now we could use the solar energy in different fields. That is, in few words, what is the Solar Alliance try to do, and that is why we are interested in to support this, and we share the effort with other countries to do the best, and that is why we realized, or we hold the meeting last year, the first meeting outside of India in Lima. We was a very success and very important conclusion. And well, we are doing now it's a new organization, of course. It's very new, the ISA, but like every organization, some moment was new, but I am very sure that in the following years, it will be stronger and strengthen the potential of his capacity. No?
Well, I am very glad to know, and I think all our audience will be very glad to know that both Peru and India are leading in this International Solar Alliance, because that's the need of the hour. We all know to have all this kind of energy.
And the idea,
yeah.
If you allow me, the main idea also, of course, is to collaborate with the change the climate, no? What is happening in the world, using the traditional or classic energy, oil, gasoil. No, we could use the alternative energy, and we will have a better world, no? Because that is the problem, the contamination, the environment, etc.
Thanks very much. We move ahead, and just very briefly, because we know that the commercial relations between India and Peru, also, just to mention a small thing, I think you already mentioned that they are holding a round of negotiation for a proposed free trade agreement, which seems it is an outstanding thing. But it seems that the bilateral trade between both nations increased to more than $3 billion in 2017 from the previous fiscal year. It almost doubled, which is really an outstanding leap. We say you almost double the trade. What can you say? How it's happening? This a kind of miracle between commercial. What is the logic behind it?
Yes, well, you're right. Our country answered the question about the free trade agreement. We are negotiating this trade agreement that cover many different areas, such as market access, rules for orange, custom procedures, trade remedies, sanitary and phytosanitary matters, technical barriers to trade, services, investment, amongst other areas. These are all very technical negotiations that are moving along at their own pace. What I can say is that our wish is to reach an early conclusion of the agreement. It is no secret that the potential for trade between our countries is very significant. More so if you think about India's position in the world today as an economic powerhouse, but also considering that there is a booming middle class in India that may be very well interested in products coming from Peru, not just precious metal, but high quality agriculture produce such as avocados, asparagus, blueberries, citrus fruits, red grapes, among others. As you mentioned, trade figures have been on the rise of the past few years, especially exports. In 2018, trade reached $3.4 million, and 2019, they dipped a little bit of $2.7 billion, which while lower represent a vast increase in the trade compared for 5 years ago. Almost twice, you say double, they said twice, the value of trade. This was greatly due to a sharp increase of export of gold and copper from Peru to India. I remain hopeful that once supply chains become reestablished after some time, trade will surge again, once again. Coming back to the point I made before about the Indian consumer, while there's no doubt that Peru is a mining country, we are also specializing in high value added agribusiness. But in India are in different hemispheres. Our products largely do not compete with the space of India market. We are working towards establishing sanitary and phytosanitary protocols of our products, and we are hopeful that once they are in place, trade will further bolster. You asked why the explanation, what is the double the numbers? For example, in our export in 2010, it was 219 millions, 11 to 248, and suddenly we jumped to 2015 600, and 2016 930, and 2017 was the miracle to almost 2,000, no? To $1,964 million, and 18 little bit down. Well, the explanation is that we are a mining country, that almost the 90%, almost 90 more maybe, that India buy to us is miners. Gold, especially gold, copper, zinc, silver. We are, Peru is, I don't know if you know, but Peru is, in minings, we are the second largest producers of silver in the world, copper and zinc, and the sixth largest producer of gold. You know, in 3 countries, they bought all our gold. Canada, UK, and India. They have all, and Switzerland. I see so little on Switzerland. We are the second exporting grapes. We are the 4th biggest exporting grapes. Second in avocados, second in the world in avocados, delicious avocados. Second in blueberries, third in mangoes, second in asparagus, second in cocoa, and 7 in tangerine. And well, this is, and what else? We buy to India medicines, cars, the Mahindra and Tata, some other chemicals. Well, but this is our, in general terms, that our trade relation.
So thanks. I think now you say it very clearly. Mining is a secret here, and you are really El Dorado of the Spanish legend. You know, El Dorado, which means, you know, and we hope to see more of Peruvian avocados here. You know, because they are really and at a reasonable rate, because they're very expensive in India right now. That's
exactly. Exactly.
But just before moving to the next topic, I would just only to because there was a question which I think you already answered. This is from Smita Sahel. She's a student of the Instituto Cervantes of New Delhi. that she was asking, with so many Spanish-speaking countries of South America competing for trade with India, how does Peru strive to stand out and be noticed? I think you already answered that very clearly, but I just wanted
Yeah.
to mention this question, which has been
Yes.
so well and with detail answered by Your Excellency. Well, let's move, and even because time is running, and we must talk now a little bit about the COVID-19 crisis. It seems, when I was watching the numbers that perhaps the peak is over in Peru. You had a big number of cases, and what do you think? How are you dealing with that? And also, I am taking questions here. The people will also be interested in how that is affecting the education in Peru,
Okay. Well, it's not a secret that Peru, alongside other Latin American countries, has been some of the worst affected around the world, due to the pandemic. This morning, the number of COVID-19 cases in Peru reaches to 2.9 lakhs. It's 288,000, more or less. And unfortunately, 9,680 people passed away or died. We are inside of the top 10. Peru that's the truth. Brazil in the second, but Peru is in the 7, more or less, in the place. However, there may be some lights in the end of the tunnel. As the number of active cases, that is the people who are currently COVID-19 positive, has been steadily dropping since June 15, albeit slowly. Part of this reason why the picture is still difficult, maybe due to the late onset of the pandemic in Peru. As the first case was only identified on March 6. This was a citizen who came from Europe. Another reason may help to explain why the number are high in our very ample testing of the disease. To this, around 70 lakhs, or is like 1.5 million, or 1,500,000 people have been tested. But the good news is that the recovery is 60%, 67% have recovered, and the 33 are still infected, and inside of these 33 are recovering also. This is the good news about this, but we are only just in the beginning of the good news of this light of the tunnel that I mentioned. Now, this number may appear small, but remember that the population of Peru is only 3 crore people. It's 32 million, which puts us just behind Brazil in our testing. That being said, there is no denying that number of cases of today is high, and that there will be far-reaching consequence of the pandemic for our society as a whole, as will also be the case of most, if not all, countries around the world. The World Bank predicted in June that Peru, along with other commodities exporting countries, will be particularly affected by the disruption of supply chain in the United States and China, our 2 biggest trade partners. Our current outlook with this year is a contraction of less or minus 12% of GDP, and an expansion of 7% next year, hopefully. I hope so. Apart from international trade, we also have one change that we still have to overcome, and that to some degrees we share with India: the informality, a big problem. A considerable portion of our population has yet to enter the formal market, which is something that we are working towards, and whose transition has been accelerated by this crisis. Given these challenges, our country has taken early and extensive measures to ensure that we will come up to top of the crisis. Our government declared our national state of emergency, a lockdown, in essence, started on March 16. We have more than 100 days in lockdown, which has been extended until July 31st, 1 more month. In total, we have engaged as much as 12% of our GDP in the fight against COVID, through many different measures. And we just, well, we have some number here. What we guys think that the time is running, and don't we like to be short in this, but we are doing the best. The school are closes. I are opening some services, public services, but we're very carefully. The people still home, and we have a curfew. We try to educate the people to be conscious that this is a big dangerous situation. And it's not just a simple another virus, no, it's very, very important. But today, well, also in the middle of this situation, we have had stranded people, Peruvian here, more than 60 persons around the 4 countries that I am also concurrent ambassador. We have had 4 flights in the last 2 months. We came back all more than 40, 45 people. Well, it was not easy, this situation, because the people who is stranded here is another consequence of the pandemic. Is very bad for the families. They come back on Peru and immediately go to quarantine and a hotel that paid by the government or the state paid this. And well, but we have done a very, very intensive consular activity, helping our people. We have, for example, some people in Nepal. It was not easy to move to Delhi, to take the plane, to go to Amsterdam, and then go to Lima. They had to come here by road. You know, the frontiers are closed. We have to go for permissions. And also from Bangladesh, no, Dhaka, it was not easy to come from by road. But we have to do all the efforts. Well, but this is
no. I was saying
also. But what we finally finished to saying that we have also, of course, special cooperation with India in this. Our 2 Ministers of Foreign Affairs, they kept a conversation, friendly and constructive conversation, and they agreed to find together some strategies to combat and cooperate against the COVID-19. This is all the countries are doing in regions, between neighbors, but with India we have special contacts, and we are very grateful to all we have received some cooperation, no? Again, with medicines, quite equipment also. No?
Thanks. No, as I was saying in the beginning, you know, this is 24/7, you know, for embassies during these times, and you have to be all the time, you know, round the clock and watching and doing so many special things to help your nationals, you know, to get back to your country, and those who stay here to remain safe, you know, and in a sound condition. Before moving to the next topic, which will be more on the cultural side, I just taking the question of one student. He's Gaurav Singh. He's a student of the Indira Gandhi National Open University. And he's asking, he would like to know about the defense cooperation between India and Peru, the current state and prospects. I don't know if you are kind enough to take this question briefly.
Defense cooperation. Military cooperation.
Military cooperation.
Yes, we have an agreement. Yes, we have here. We signed an agreement in this matter. In this sense, we have since many years we have a military attaché here, a colonel, who is in our embassy. It's a section, a special section, together with other trade section, cultural section. But this means that Peru and India, they are very close. The talkings, very well interchange about in cooperation, in education, trainings, military trainings, especially, you know, now in this day, the hypothesis of use the military is now the classic use the military. Now the military has a new roles in the society, helping in moments of tragedies, natural tragedies, for example, earthquake or any kind of tragedy. Militaries have changed, also to keep the social order. But we have also equipment. We have both Indian military equipment, and well, this is in few words, our cooperation in defense, no? And of course, we are the same, we defend the democracy, the human rights, the same line that we understand this issue in terms of defense. No?
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. It's been a very... And now we move, to culture. There are several questions there, but I would like to remind that Peru, like India, they have some cultural resemblances, as both countries are cradles of civilization and home to multicultural societies. Let's remember that Peru has one of I think the oldest civilization found in America. It was found in Peru, and much earlier than the Incas. And of course, they also share a wonderful diversity of geographies and climates. Also, it seems that Rabindranath Tagore was quite inspired by indigenous art. And the famous poet César Vallejo inspired a movement of Indian anti-imperialist writers and poets back in 1940. What you can say about the cultural relations between both countries?
All what you said, dear Oscar, is true. And I'm happy that you are asking this question. Peru and India are truly ancient societies. Just to give the people who are present a better idea, when the Indus Valley civilization flourished in South Asia, Peru saw the birth of the most ancient city in the America now, Caral. It happened in 5,000 years before Christ.
Wow.
Together with Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Mexico. This is the ancient civilization, no?
Really
we are the honor to share with India these places. We were in separate places, 17,000 kilometers far away, but we are in the same moment growing together in the war, no? Naturally, the ancient story, coupled with the fact that Peru has all three natural regions, coast, mountains, and jungle, gave birth to a rich cultural tradition, which is some things we deeply share with India. Now, that you mentioned Vallejo and Tagore, without doubt, two of the most important writers in the modern history. I have to give Professor Ganguly credit for enlightening us with his research on how the Nobel Prize winner Tagore was inspired by indigenous art and the poetry of Vallejo. I can tell you that the fame of this Indian writer has also transcended in Peru, and that he was a familiar name in cultural circles at the beginning of the 20th century. As a matter of fact, Dr. Rakarkrishnan documents an anecdote of Tagore being invited to attend the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Ayacucho in Peru, one of the most landmark of our story. The Battle of Ayacucho was the last battle that finished the presence of Spanish in Peru. The colonization is finished, and we start to be independent since this battle, no? With the story of San Martin and Bolivar, but what's the story about Bolivar? Tagore accepted, and that took the long journey to Peru to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Ayacucho. Unfortunately, he became ill midway and had to stop in Argentina. Was very close to reach Lima and to share with us this homage to our battle for the 100th battle, but unfortunately, that you can give an idea what was so close. This Tagore close to many people in our country in this moment. Nowadays, our cultural relations are on the rise. In Peru, Indian culture is well appreciated. For example, people know about Bollywood, of course, admire the religion, wear the clothes, practice yoga, like a lot of people in the world, and some even learning language in this time. Likewise, in India, more and more people are attracted to the idea of an equally ancient culture. Of course, Machu Picchu, first place, the colors, textiles, and the warmth of our people, and many other attractions that we have in Peru. There is an Indo-Peruvian also. We have an institution called Indo-Peruvian Friendship Association. We was relaunched in 2017 that you talk about the at the beginning about the gallery, the Peru we have here in the embassy, in the residence. And in Peru, in Lima, we have an Indian Cultural Center that imparts yoga and Indian culture. Well, but as I said, Dr. Rongali said in the introduction of his book about Cesar Vallejo, he translated to the Bengali and Hindi and Spanish a book. He said that 70,000 kilometers separates geographically Peru to India, but the 5,000 years before Christ, we have been cradled as an ancient civilization, make us too close with a lot of similarities of our both cultures. That is the truth. That's
very nice. That's a very nice appreciation.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's been very enlightening. I don't know if everybody knows about this ancient civilization of Keral, in Peru. And of course, everybody knows about the Inca. And you know also that Machu Picchu is incredibly popular here in India. No, I remember back when we opened the Cervantes, that we did an exhibition at that time with your embassy about Machu Picchu, and it had such a high number of visitors, that you have our gallery open, if you ever want to leave, because people feel very attracted about all these things.
So it's another.
Yes,
please.
It's
another thing that we share with India is we have two words of the world, no? Machu Picchu for one side and Taj Mahal for the other side. So this is the both we share. Two different side, but we have two worlds.
I have many questions here, Ambassador, regarding culture, of several, and I'm not sure if I will be able to take all of them, but one that maybe, of course, people will ask about those wonderful lines of the mystery of Nazca lines and all these kind of things. Here, I have here also a question by Neha Patak. You don't have to answer it in detail, but saying that if there are similarities and ancient connections of language and festivals between India and Peru. And I think you already, say it's more a kind of fraternity of discoveries that was there. I don't know if history can prove anything, but also there is a question here, which I think it's interesting. And I'm curious how you will answer that. This is from also Smita Sahey, and she's asking, how does a Peruano reconcile his Hispanic and indigenous roots? How you do that in Peru? How you reconcile the double heritage also from the Spanish and your deep roots in history there? How you manage it?
Yes, let me tell you just very briefly. In the middle of the 20th century, they were a great debate in the middle when we were celebrating our 200th centenary, our independence, was in 1821. But it was a great debate between the intellectual class. One is from Spain and another from indigenous. Yes. Both have they said if what happened is the Spaniards never arrived to our colony and to our lands, we could be a big countries or big empire to continue to our development. But because they say that the conquered stopped the development. But the debate is no useful because the reality is one. The reality what's that happening, and it's true that the Spaniard brought a lot of knowledge, but no, it's not enough with the knowledge and the technology or another kind of way, another religion, another issue, another culture. The truth is that the mixture, our main proud that we are as Peruvian, This is our identity, our mixture. This is the more rich that we have as a Peruvian. We don't have a problem like the mixture of the Indian. I feel descendant of the Incas, of course. One of part of my genes maybe has a portion of this, and other of the Spaniard, of course. But the reason we can reconcile now, we're not talking about the difference of that. We are all are Peruvians. We are different, like in any society, of course, but we are proud of very rich society. And like I said, Inca Garcilaso de la Vega said, he said, our first Peruvian, he said, I am Peruvian. I am mixture of both. I am very proud of what I am. I am the son of a princess, Inca princess, and a noble Spain. I am Peruvian. That's the best answer that I could give you in this moment.
That's a really incredible answer. Very amazing. I think people should take note, you know, of this proud, this being proud, you know, having this double origin. It's really, thanks very much. I mean, it's been really, and Inca, of course, it stands there as a symbol of what you are saying, right? The first
Yes.
Peruvian, as you rightly said. Just quickly, you know, take a few more questions from the culture side. Very briefly, because we are running out of time. What is the status of a language like Quechua in Peru?
Well, it's a Quechua. The official language in Peru is the Spanish, also, but Quechua is a dialectic. We speak in some places in the India, but it's not the most speakers. No, the Spanish language is the most speaker, obviously, and we are trying also to teach to all the Quechua speaker to speak both language, and also we have other dialects also in the jungle. We have many dialects, not just one Quechua. We have Aymaras, for example, the Aymara in the south, close to Bolivia, and other ones in the most in the jungle. We respect. We're conscious that we have to keep conserving this language. We don't avoid this language, but we teach also the Spanish, because it's normal, it's natural that all the majority speak. For many reasons, the Spanish could be more possibilities to develop and to have a better life. But we are very proud of the Quechua, and we try to keep this in the community's Quechua. No?
That's very good. I would like, you know, to take this opportunity to mention, you know, that last year we organized one event which was called Ibero-American Voices, which we will do the second edition this year, which maybe will be also online, because we don't know about the situation. But that will give us a scope, perhaps, you know, to also take in Peru and other Latin American countries. But as you rightly say, one of the main inspirations of this program was to have not only Spanish language, but also the languages that thrive under the umbrella of Spanish, which is like Quechua, Aymara, like my own language, which is Catalan or Galician or Basque. And we had, at that time, we had poets from Mexico in Mixteco language. And I hope, you know, that Peru this time also comes with us and brings some poets and not only in Spanish, but also in the other languages of Peru. Because as you say, the Spanish language now, it's an umbrella, really. Where many other languages flourishes, it's not an oppressive language, all the contrary. And I think that Peru is giving a lot of importance to the other languages besides Spanish, right? Trying to keep up with their cultural diversity. Also, very briefly, we can, by the way, that was a question by Meghna. She's a teacher of Spanish in Manipal in Karnataka. And now here, also before moving from culture, of course, our students are very interested, and that will be about what are the possibilities. What is the relation of India and Peru in the area of education, and how an Indian student can go to Peru, and if there are any program or changes. By the way, this is a question by Neha Patak.
Okay. I saw that this is one of the questions that we have in the program, but we have some agreements about this. but the mostly I think that they are in the main universities, they are directly contact, they are directly linkage with all the universities. And I know there are many programs that they are openly for all of them who are interested to know more about this, can reach in the internet, and they will find this. For our side, we received some fellowship from India. We have here one of them, but we are, of course, very glad if some of them would like to get more information about some fellowship in Peru. We could keep in touch with them or to try to find something. No?
Well, thanks very much, Ambassador. We are closing our end. I think it's been a very fruitful, session. Let me just only to finish, because there is a question also here, and I think you partly answer it. Is about the perception of India in Peru. How Peruvians see India today? How Peruvians? What is the image of India in Peru?
How the Peruvians see our Indians? Well, they try. I said, well, I answered something like that. We admire the Indians' culture very long, not just from Gandhi, or we know about Bollywood since the 70s. We saw the films, very popular films. They even, in some moment of our developed society, the newborns, baby borns, have names of this personage of the films, the Indian films. No, it was so popular. But with that, no, India is a little, yes, is a little far away for the country, and this is some idea. But I think that each time they are closer, and this is our mission here. That is why the last year we brought here two artists, group music artists here, dancer. We presented pictures. We did a lot of activities before the COVID lockdown. We did many events, cultural events. Try to find I remember once we showed a picture, an excellent picture, a photographer for the 1890, 50 years of picture, 1890 to 1950. It was a collection of 80 pieces of big, excellent picture of Peru, for example, just not for the capitals, other places, geographically, etc. That is what we are doing, and I think that the embassy in India, embassy in Lima, is also doing the same. And we are in our gallery. We have here a space that the people who would like to know more about Peru. We have some. How do you say the huacos or ceramics, Inca ceramics or Nazca, the different cultures of Peru, pre-Hispanic, no, that they come see to visit. We have dresses, we have something. Sometimes we have well, when the COVID permits. No, I know that we are allowed now to go out for following hours, but we have to arrange some visit. But the perception is very good. Perception for both sides is very good. Well, the offer that we have for tourism, that we have a very big offer to the tourism for all the budgets, the rich, medium, and pocket, the budget also. And we have different places, mountain, beaches, desert, lakes, all the places that we like enjoy. Food, for example, our food, Peruvian food.
Sorry, please close your mic.
We have three, for example, three restaurants in the San Pellegrino list. Is inside of the 50s, no? It's a very glad for us, no? Very proud of this. What can I say? We are here to give all the information that you could need. I'm very pleased to be here.
Thanks very much. And just before closing, I would like to remind the audience about the 3 milestones in the cultural relation between Peru and India, which has been the Indian Cultural Center at the Embassy of India in Peru in 2015, the relaunch of the Indo-Peruvian Friendship Association in 2017, and finally, the opening of the art gallery of the Embassy of Peru also in 2017. I think there are 3 milestones in the relation that you already mentioned, but I wanted to sum up. Thanks very much. It's been really, a very interesting session. I hope, our audience has enjoyed it. And thank you also for closing this webinar on India and the Spanish-speaking diplomacy. It's been an honor, to have you in our last session. And I think that such important country as Peru, and closing this series of talks, it's a very fitting and a very welcoming end. And thanks very much, because the most important, I already thank the ambassadors, but the most important persons here are the persons who are listening, who are following these webinars for the last month and a half. They've been very faithful, I hope that these seminars have served, the cause, that you'll know a little bit better what is this wonderful Spanish-speaking community all around the world. And thanks very much. And with that, we close our session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. My last word. Thank you. Muchas gracias. Thank you. Just to congratulate again for this initiative, a brilliant initiative to do this webinar. And it has been a success. And it has been a great honor for me to be the last one to close this cycle of the conversation with Ambassador. And all the time that you need, Peru and in the Cervantes Institute, we are very special relation, the cooperation, and we have. I am very happy to have been here in India. I have 1 year. I am very, very happy to know the Indian people. I have friends here. Unfortunately, the COVID allowed me to know more of the country, but I have the opportunity to have so many trips, and I'm very glad, I'm very grateful to be here living in India, in a great country. Thank you again, my dear Oscar, and we will keep in touch all the time.
Muchas gracias y hasta pronto.
Gracias, hasta muy pronto.
Hasta muy pronto.